Former President Donald Trump is the first former president to be charged in a criminal case. The exact charges are sealed, but more is expected to come to light after today's arraignment. Here to chat all about it is a friend of the show and criminal defense attorney, A. Scott Bolden. Scott, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Glad to be a friend of the show.
Absolutely. I guess we'll be seeing a lot more of you with this historic case going on. I'm curious, from your legal perspective, what exactly are you looking out for today?
Well, the arraignment will be historic. That's on its face. I'm looking for the indictment to be unsealed and what's in that indictment. The media says there's something like 30 plus counts in there. There's got to be more in there than Stormy Daniels if there are 30 counts. And it's very serious. His liberty is at stake. He's never faced a criminal indictment or criminal prosecution. I've represented elected officials who are running for office. It's very difficult to battle a criminal case and to run for office, whether it's the president or whether it's a mayor or even a city council member.
Given what we know, because again, we don't know all the exact charges, but we know prosecutors likely will have to prove intent to defraud. And do you think that'll be an uphill battle for them? Do you think that'll be difficult to do?
Depends on how much evidence they have. The indictment says that there's probable cause to believe that a criminal case can be brought, and that's why they're bringing it. It'll be interesting. Michael Cohen's going to be a key figure in this case, and he's not the best witness and not the most credible witness because he's a convicted felon. However, if you've got corroboration, then you've got a case. And given the multi-year investigation, there's going to be a lot there. This case is going to take time to try. Although if I was Donald Trump, my strategy would be, I want the case to be tried right away because I'm running for president. And if I win, I'm going to get the GOP nomination and push back on the Democrats.
Speaking of the defense, what do you think they'll argue here? I
think they'll argue in a motion to dismiss that statutory limitations have run. Look for in the indictment whether there's a racketeering charge or a conspiracy charge, because that will trump the statute of limitations. But they're going to file those motions anyway. I know Joe Tacopina, who is a very fine criminal defense lawyer, and look for him to put on an aggressive defense because he's representing Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, looming over this, you mentioned it there, presidential election 2024. How long do you think this will drag out? I mean, we're talking about someone, Donald Trump, that is, who has a tendency to really kind of drag things out. So do you think this will go well into next year?
It could, but there's a Speedy Trial Act that he'll have to waive because he'll want to file motions and what have you. But the reality is, if they're pushing for a quick date, depending on what's in the indictment, they may get a quick date. My gut is, though, what you really want to watch out for is whether Georgia indicts him and whether the feds indict him on the secret documents. If those indictments start to fall in his lap, if you will, it's going to be hard for him to stay in the race. I've represented lots of politicians who have run for office or not, and you need to be focused because your liberty is at stake. The politics is secondary, and there's a PR strategy, a political strategy, and a litigation strategy. They're not all congruent with one another, but the number one piece is staying out of jail and staying away from being convicted. That takes all of your energy.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I was looking at, I guess, really what is the irony of the electoral system. If Trump is convicted on possible felony here, he couldn't vote for himself, but he can still run legally.
Under the Constitution, there are very few limitations or qualifications for running for president. So you can be almost anybody and run so long as you were born here and you're of a certain age. So that would be an interesting dynamic. But we're in new territory altogether. The arraignment usually is a 10 or 15-minute process. How they process him, how they put him in and get him out, probably underground through some of the judges' entrances and stuff. It's all new ground. And so this is historically just so significant because it's our first time around with something like this. But Donald Trump drives that negative narrative.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned you've worked with other politicians. It's interesting because Trump seems to be in his own category as far as leveraging, something like this, a criminal case, and we've already seen him raise funds off of it. So we'll make sure to have you around to continue to break all of this down. But today, of course, a big day. Thanks so much for joining us.